just coming up. Does that thing where it takes forever.
It's okay. I wasn't really ready when I said I was ready, so but I'm ready now. Taco Bell has apple empanadas back for anybody who is like me and really wants one.
Y'all have
Got
a
it.
lovely evening. I gotta make a run to Taco Bell. Thank you.
You're welcome. They just started today. Decades menu.
Girl, you just got me in trouble. Taco Bell literally is across the street from where I live. I could walk there in under 2 minutes.
Decades menu. Do it. It's posted.
Fabulous. Okay, so let me just get back to the Zoom. There we are. Okay, welcome, jury, to your jury roundtable. So, before we get into things, we just want to go over some ground rules, some grounding, and just a reminder for you all what's going to happen. Oh, Pally is here. I'm just going to let Pally in, and then I'm going to do my spiel because.
Please do not widely share the jury roundtable link. I know sometimes you share that with your people. Don't share that.
Nope. This link stays here. Thank you very much. Okay, welcome, Pally, as well. So, jury, how this is going to work is it is going to be an open forum discussion with all of you. You are going to lead it. We will be here as moderation if we feel like something needs to be moved on or if something needs to be calmed down or stopped, we will interject, but we will only interject if needed. Just a few reminder on things. So, obviously, this final three has fought very hard to be where they're at. The least what we ask of you guys is to have a genuine discussion. If you feel that you are getting personal, that's where we're going to kind of shut it down and ask you to move on to another topic because they deserve that much. Just a general reminder, if you were in the final three, you would want to be heard out as well. So give the finalists that same respect during this jury roundtable, okay? With that being said, obviously, you can be upset, you can be bitter. That's in your right as a juror to base your vote how you want. How you decide to vote is yours and yours alone. This discussion is here to help you with that. But just make sure you hear each other out. How this is going to work is we're going to divide it into the categories. So social, strategic, and physical. And then from there, you're going to talk about each person. So obviously give each person their time of speaking. If you want to interject on something, just make sure you can be heard. I do believe we have the raise hand function or just something. How it will work is in reactions, there's the raise hand. So if there is something you want to say, raise that so then you can start after the other person finishes. Has anybody got any questions? No? Okay. Well, firstly, enjoy this. You have made it this far to get to the jury, and this is what you guys deserve to have. Obviously, as production, we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say, as well as the viewers and everyone. So, where would you like to start? Social, strategic, or physical?
Let's get physical. Physical.
Okay, then. So, you guys are going to start on the physical aspect of the game. The floor is now yours. Whoever wants to start talking about whoever, now is your time.
I mean, I do feel like that's a pretty simple category to talk about in terms of competition wins. I think there's one person who broke a record on competitions, So, I mean, we're going to talk about physical game competitions. Obviously, I think Eleanor takes that. I think we could probably all agree on that in a very big landslide way. Any other thoughts, feelings?
Did she win the record? Sorry.
Yeah, I think so.
She had 6 immunity wins.
Yeah, because she also won the puzzle thing before we merged.
And that's 7 overall,
6.
or
6.
we did 6. Yeah, because from my season, Scott also won 6 immunities, if I remember right.
I can confirm Scott only won 5.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, I thought I saw in the post for Eleanor winning the endurance comp that it officially like set the record. So,
Okay.
obviously, there's more to a game than just that. I think her winning those 4 immunities in a row really did her a favor. I think the mid game that was the point. Maybe Jude and Kyle might have been most willing to like turn against her, and I think her winning those 4 in a row kind of changed the course of what they were going to do. I could be wrong. I don't know. That's just my impression. So either way, it's very impressive, 4 in a row, and then the other 2.
I totally agree with that. If it's a record or not, I totally agree that this is impressive, and definitely Eleanor was the strongest. I would say that, yeah, I can imagine that Kyle was throwing the challenges because he was always scoring very, very low points and very high times, maybe. So I can also imagine that he only wanted to hide his threat from physical challenges.
I can see that. I also was wondering if Jude might have been throwing some challenges earlier because I don't know, maybe that's just my assumption that she'd be like better at some of them, which I don't know if that's even a fair assumption, but some of the times and results I was sort of like, really? So I don't know. I mean, I think we can all talk about the final 4 as throwing, but
Jude is actually strong physically. I was the one paired with her at the final 10 when we had to do the coins, and she did it in like 10 seconds or something like that. So that was actually crazy. And I was very, very afraid that she's gonna get a lot of individual immunities, and it didn't happen.
I would just like to interject as Z has raised his hand, so I just wanted to give Z the chance as he's not on mute, so I don't think you can see him.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, from my perspective, a lot of how I view physical is not the necessarily the winning or the losing, but it's the effort relative to one's strength. For me, Eleanor always seemed to be giving 110%, and I think my perception of what the competitions were like were pretty much summed up by the final 4 competition. Kyle asked Eleanor to throw once Polly was out. Eleanor, to her credit in my book, ignored him because like I don't care how safe you think you are at final 4, you can't throw at that point. You've got to make the decision to go on. I think for me, I don't personally agree that I think Kyle was actively throwing. My best take on things was that a lot of the competitions required some sort of focus, and I don't think his ADHD was necessarily always helpful for that. So I don't view it as throwing. I could be wrong. I'd certainly like somebody to ask him that on Saturday. Jude really got under my skin in that final 4 comp because not only was it an incredibly blatant throw, but I found her reaction once Papali dropped quite unsavory. I think it's okay to have like a moment where you sort of have a big smile, but I think, you need to accept these moments with a bit of grace, and I think that was lacking, and then to like throw it so obviously on top of that, it just it got under my skin. So on a physical level, I certainly agree that Eleanor's on top. I think Kyle, to my understanding, did worked to the best of his abilities, at least more often than not. And Jude's approach to them has rubbed me up the wrong way a little bit. But anyway, I'll stop rambling.
So I believe Danny had her hand next. So Danny.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say, I mean, obviously Eleanor was the one that played the best physical game, like that's undeniable. But I feel like we can't really judge Jude for throwing that last challenge. Like I want to ask her, I think someone else said that they want to ask her about it at Final Tribal. But like to me it's sort of a testament to like your positioning in the game, where if you like don't need it, if you don't need to win, then that obviously means that you've done something right, you've set yourself up well. And to me that's a lot more impressive, being able to like make it to the end without winning immunities than being able to like just go and win out. And I'm not discrediting Eleanor here. Like I think she played a great social and strategic game. We'll get to that later. But I think all three of them played well, and I don't know. I don't think the throwing bothered me as much as it did a few other jury members. Because that just means that Jude was able to excel elsewhere. So that's my 2 cents. But yeah.
Fabi, you?
Yeah, I guess I'll say, as someone who also loves to compete, and I feel like in survivor games, often people are gonna say physical game doesn't count as much, maybe as much as strategic or social. But I feel like Eleanor, well, at least for me, it shows like people really want to be there and want to play. So for me, that's always like you really want to try and give your best. So I have mad respect for Eleanor, how she did all that. For Kyle, I can say because I was paired a lot with Kyle for the competitions that were like with 2 people, and even like pre-swap when we had like the comps where we were in pairs. I feel like at least in these comps he gave like his best. Obviously, also beat me once. So I don't know if he threw all of them, if he threw any of them, but at least from what I saw, he always like gave his best. And then with Jude, I don't know if it's necessarily like the throwing that is something that got under people's skin, but maybe like how she threw it, like that blatantly obvious. So maybe that's like the thing that I would criticize, like the way how she did it in the end.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can put my hand down, but I will in a second. Oh, there we go. Okay. Um, yeah, I feel like, I mean, I honestly, I have a lot of respect for Jude. I think I agree with Danny. She played an excellent game. For me, it did rub me the wrong way too. Because I guess for me, like, no matter how strong your social game is, I've been told frequently, like pretty much the only area that I really excel in personally is my social game. So that's somebody that is my one strength. I can respect that so much, but I can't, I have a hard time understanding feeling so secure that at such a critical juncture, you would feel comfortable blatantly throwing it. Like I have never once been that comfortable in a tribal council where I'm like, oh yeah, I can just throw it and it'd be fine. Like maybe every once in a while, but like very, very rarely and only early on. Like and again, like I think that she has played such a great game. And so I think for me, if she can explain that reaction well enough I think it's something I can definitely get past, but it didn't impress me. And also the blatant glee at, having pulled off throwing the challenge. Like it wasn't even just she was happy. Like no, she was gleeful. Like um and I like for me, I guess like as strong as her social game was, that kind of goes against it because you're smirking when a juror is about to enter the jury. Like that's probably not the best social move. Um, but again, I think she could have a good reason for it. I just would like to hear that from her. And Kyle, like everybody said, I do think I think Kyle just reminds me of a golden retriever puppy. Like he is so sweet and he tries so hard, but then there's a fly over there that he's got to go run after, and then he'll come back and he does try. I really think that he gave it his all. I just think that yeah, like he had so much energy with his ADHD, which my daughter has ADHD. I know what that looks like. I just think that it was hard. And then Eleanor, I mean, her social game wasn't necessarily the strongest of the three. I don't know, in my mind, okay. One second, Will. In my mind, I think that Eleanor was the strongest physical player. Kyle was actually the strongest strategic player. And Jude, well, no, Kyle was the social player, and I think Jude was the strategic player. I think that's where each of their strengths lie. At least in my mind, that's what I can see. And so they're gonna really, I mean, I'm gonna want to hear from each of them, like, where they feel like they're deaf. I just want self-awareness. Like,
So just a reminder, this is about the physical part of the game.
Yes. Thank you. No, I just want self-awareness about like how her, from Jude, how throwing that last comp, I want some self-awareness about how that came off. And then in that way I can get past it. And I will shut up now because there's a couple people wanting to talk.
Okay, so we're going to Hyrie next, I believe was the next person to raise their hand.
Thank you. I don't know how to lower the hand. Okay, thank you. So I feel like another aspect of when we're talking about physical is it's kind of subjective, but like mental could be also a physical strength. Like, yes, you can perform very well with challenges, but at the end of the day, we're playing an online game. So the mental aspect of a physical strength does play a part as well. Like you, I'm not trying to discredit Eleanor's breaking record. Like that's impressive. But when at times she is safe, how did that play a part? Like complementing her mental strength to being safe? Because there were two instances she went on a power trip when she didn't really need to. And like for Jude, yes, it rubbed a lot of us the wrong way with her throwing the challenge. We can't confirm that yet. Maybe she will explain it in her speech. But I feel that she was so comfortable with whatever game that she has that it may be a gameplay where she decided to throw the challenge because that she was comfortable. Like I don't think we should take it the wrong way. Like I feel what she needs to explain to us is why she did it at that important time when it was Final Four. Yeah, and with Kyle, I don't think that he was necessarily throwing anything at any stage. Like he was doing his best. And he had a good balance of like when he didn't have any safety, he didn't like go panicky or go into a panic mode, which Eleanor did. Like I'm pretty sure some of you can agree with that, like how Eleanor has conversations with us before tribal. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with Eleanor. But yeah, that's my point of like the mental physical strength.
Yeah. See, I want to bring that up when we get to social game, because for me that also ties into that. But I kind of want to go back to the Jude thing because with the final four, because for me, I think the biggest thing that I need to see from Jude is how her game differentiated from her trio. And for me, the act of like throwing it the second the person who wasn't in their trio went down just reinforces for me again, like, oh, like your trip to the end here, from my perspective right now, is because of your trio. And so it just doesn't help me see her game separate from the three of them. Like it's just like low, like throwing that because you're so secure in the threesome that we know they're secure in. Not threesome. but so for me, it just like doing that didn't help with the questions and the issues that I already had about her game, and just like kind of confused it more for me. If that makes sense. Like I don't think she did herself a favor in that way, but like if nobody else is asking about it, I absolutely want to ask about it. And my mind is open about it because like everybody should justify their reasons. But for me, it's just the act of doing that at that point didn't didn't solve the questions or change the narrative that I already perceived as being what got her to the end.
Okay, and finish us off, Danny.
Ollie, you can tell me if I'm going like too off topic here and like the other aspects, but I'm a firm believer that there isn't. Oh, I don't know why my camera is moving. I'm a firm believer that there isn't like a clear social, strategic, and physical game. I feel like they overlap a lot, and I need to hear how people's like physical challenge wins or lack thereof impacts their other like aspects of the game. Like for example, how did Eleanor winning all those immunities have an impact on her strategic game? Did she like continue to play it safe, or did she still make moves? Did she like how did that work for her? And Jude, would she have played differently if she won a lot of challenges? And same with Kyle, like all of that sort of stuff. That's what I want to know.
Okay, sorry, my laptop just froze for a second there. Okay, so it sounds like we have finished the physical portion talk. So if everyone is happy to, we're going to move on to either social or strategic. So again, it's up to you if you'd like to go to the social aspect or the strategic aspect.
Should we do strategy next, since I feel like social is probably like going to be the thing we talk about the most? That's my vote. I don't know.
We'll go for the strategy side then. So whoever wants to kick us off, go right ahead.
I mean, I'll go. I think strategy and social are far harder to delineate than physical. I think for me, while it was a social strategy, the clearest difference in game between the three of them, at least from my perspective, is Kyle's, because I feel like Jude and Eleanor's games seemed pretty inexorably linked, whereas Kyle, pretty much the whole game when I was on the same tribe as him, he was always reputation managing, so to speak. There was always these little tiny moves he'd be making that I'd look at and be like, why are you doing that? And there was this there seemed to be this constant thought of his head of managing how he appeared to the players in the game. It seems weird to say for somebody who's made the finale in a final three, but it felt to me like he was playing a floater game. He was trying to stay in the middle, and he was trying to make the votes and the decisions that kept everybody around him happiest. Whether you respect that style of game or not is another thing entirely. It'll irritate some people. Some people will like it. Personally, I'm kind of on the fence, but it is at least something that differentiates him from the other two. For me, overall, right now, I think Eleanor is more likely to get my vote than Kyle is, but I think that comes down more to other parts. Whereas Kyle, I can at least see what he was doing differently, which does matter when you get a trio making the end as a unit.
I just want to jump in just before Fabi starts, just to say welcome, Davey, to the roundtable. Just to let you know, we are discussing each of the final three. We just ask, please remain respectful, have a genuine conversation, listen to everyone. And if you do have something to say, just have your hand raised, just so you have the chance to speak.
And while we're at the point of interrupting, I just want to point out that you guys can discuss each person in these categories without feeling compelled to keep saying who you want to lean to vote for or not vote for. Just discuss the categories and the people. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to continue with Fabi.
Well, I think as Steve said, like as someone also who was in an alliance with those three together, I feel like those three strategically played for me. They're like kind of like always felt like a block. It was like Jude, Kyle, and Eleanor. So I feel like they have like only small, at least for me, I wasn't there that long in the merge. Small differences in the strategic way they played, and I feel like that kind of overlaps with uh the social game a little bit. What like Owen said before, or I agree with the how people went strategically about their votes, how they communicated that. So I'll talk about later, but just like strategically, I feel like for me at least, they were kind of like always a block. So I was like, okay, if Eleanor knows this, probably Jude knows this, Kyle knows this. If Eleanor's voting this way, there's a high chance that like Jude and Kyle are voting this way. So it would be interesting to see what they have to say, how their game strategically differentiates from the other two people.
So it's Danny going into Owen and then Pally.
I just want to comment on or pick up on what Z said about Kyle playing a game where his like goal was to make sure that everybody was sort of happy with him and how he and like playing the middle. And I think looking at it from purely a social standpoint, that is the best way to play the social game. Because why would you like make decisions that would burn bridges? Like that's not a good social move. And I feel like I know a lot of people were annoyed at Eleanor. I don't know if people were annoyed at Jude, but I'd never heard of anybody being sort of like pissed off at Kyle, which means that his like that style of game worked for him socially. So I'm kind of advocating for him on that sort of standpoint where I think he played it like his style of game did work for him from a social standpoint. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think so. Of all three, like I think strategy is the aspect of the game that we couldn't ever possibly fully grasp until FTC. Like the strategy of a player is generally something they keep close to their chests. And obviously we can observe things and we can use the actions people take and how they vote to like piece together an idea. But I think for me, and this is what I'm really excited about, is I know that there are things Kyle was doing that I don't think any of us have any idea yet. And I think he needs to use his FTC time wisely to really just show us what was going on behind the scenes for him. I'm sorry, I got distracted by Danny's message. That's okay. But no, but truly, like I'm a firm believer that like a social game is a strategic game. Like you you can't really do anything strategic without having the backing of a social game. You can't really pull off moves and stuff. And so for me, I really need to see how, and I think this has already been said, but how each of their individual strategies differed from each other. Because I think their strategy as a trio is very obvious. I mean, I think they did a very good job of like sort of when they revealed themselves, like they sort of, if we were paying better attention, the red flag was there when they all voted together at Final 12, right? We should have maybe clued in. But I think they did a very good job of like separating that. And to me, I think Jude and Kyle used their social game a little bit better than Eleanor did to kind of like get on top of that, at least with me anyways, because they all three of them voted for me. And like Kyle did a very good job of getting over that. Jude, very funny. She initially tried to lie to me that she voted. She tried to say she voted for Z that round. Which is very funny because like there's just little moments like that where I'm like, Jude, we're all counting stuff. So like that kind of like questions the strat. I guess now that I say that out loud, that kind of questions the strategy a little bit because like, why would you try to lie to someone in a game where everybody can do the math and figure out where people are voting? So that's just kind of interesting. But overall, I thought her and Kyle did a better job of like kind of fixing their like faux pas, fixing their mistakes. And to me, I think that there is strategy behind that. Like when you stumble, how do you recover with people? And I thought I do think Kyle and Jude surpassed Eleanor in that respect. I'm done. That's it.
I totally agree with Owen. I don't know. I wanted to say the same thing, so I don't know if I can add any more. Owen, you stole my words.
So it will go Cassie, Davey, Hyrie.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, strategic is my weak point. And so for me, I have a very hard time discerning what their strategies were other than, you know, be in like try to have a decent social game. I mean, Jude strategically, she had me fooled. I did not realize that she was in as tight with Eleanor and Kyle as she ended up being. And so she absolutely had me fooled. And I think that was a great strategy. And I don't know who, again, whether that's her strategy or their strategy or what, like whether that was a group decision or what, like, I mean, on me, it absolutely worked. And I think it was really smart because, like it's been said, like it took us a while to figure out, like it took most of us a while to figure out how tight the three of them actually were. I didn't realize it until well after I got voted out. So, um, so strategically, I am really excited to hear them out about what their strategies were because, like has been said, like we don't know what was going on inside their head and what the thought process was that led to each little pivot or move. And because I'm bad at strategy myself, I can't comment too much on strategy. It's not a conscious thing for me as I wrestle with my cat. Um, but it's not really a conscious thing for me. So I am really excited to hear them because a lot of strategy too is being able to um verbalize what you did. I think that's a strategy is you have like being able to verbalize exactly what you did. Um like and knowing your game well enough. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm really excited. I'm definitely ready to hear them each out. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to stop because my cat is huffing.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Apologies if I repeat anything. I think for me, I I actually like really care for all three. Not saying that nobody else does, but I have like a very special place in my heart for all three of them based on what transpired on the swap tribe. And I think that if things like were different, I would have like a different kind of perspective or POV on that. And I think that for me in this FTC, I'm gonna listen to everyone and I'm gonna give everybody a fair shot. But I'm actually like really interested in their self-awareness. And I think that I want to come up with like a quick fire, maybe like rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10 on like luck, maneuverability, adaptability, and the ability to come back from a setback. Or like, I don't know, I haven't fleshed it out yet, but I'm like really interested in the metrics of it. And I want to see how succinctly, like Cassie said, they're able to talk and articulate what they did. I'm really excited.
Hyree's next.
Okay. For me, I just like Cassie, I'm also confused with some of the strategy that they have, whether it is strategy or just them deceiving us. For example, at one point, Kyle spoke to me and Rocky about potentially separating his game from Eleanor. I think he also mentioned to Owen, I can't confirm, about Eleanor trying to set Jude up as a target in the rounds to come, which is at that point, I believe final 8, final 9, which I agree because Jude was a front runner in the game. And then it was sort of like Kyle giving information to me about Eleanor's game and in a way reflecting Eleanor's character, not in a good light. So I got on call with Eleanor just to hear her out because she was pretty down after the Cassie round. She really didn't want to vote Cassie out. So when it didn't go her way, she just shut down and then she was so upset. She got on call with me crying. And of course, I had to tell her, like, hey, your people are throwing you under the bus. Like, Kyle is saying all these things, and that's why you are having an argument with Jude. I don't know if all of that is a strategy or like just the three of them deceiving me and using what I say to Eleanor to put Kyle and Jude against me. Because at that point, I was trying to make a move against Jude, and that didn't work, obviously, because I'm here. So that's probably one of the questions that I do have for the three of them, because I truly want to know if that was all a ploy or just strategy or whatever that was.
So I believe it goes Danny, Owen, Pally.
Okay, first of all, I want to say my bad. For some reason I got it in my brain that we're talking about social a bit before, and so I talked about social. But strategy. I do really want to know, in their own words, from the three of them, how their strategy differentiated from each other. I think that's my biggest question at the moment, because obviously we know that they played as a tight trio. And so if no one else does it, I think I might ask them at the final tribal if like how they view their games as differently from one another. That is my biggest question at the moment. And also, I just want to say, during the Cassie round, I don't know if Eleanor truly did want Cassie out, or if she did want to vote for Rocky, but because I know she was really pissed at me afterwards that I voted for Rocky and I didn't tell her. The thing was, she had like plenty of opportunity. Like, I came back I was going hiking that day, and I came back like an hour before tribal, and I said to her, like, I'm back, like, what's the plan? She had every opportunity to like, tell me that it was Rocky. If we wanted to save Cassie, we were voting Rocky, but she didn't. I asked her repeatedly, like, what's the plan? Like, who are you voting for? She said, you already know. I said, I don't know. Like, give me a name. And she said, good luck, babe. Like, chaperone reference. I don't know. She said that, and then like left me on red for the rest of the day, and like until tribal. And then when I went on call with Cassie, and that was the first time I heard that Rocky's name was out there. And this was like, Cassie can attest to it. It was literally like 5 minutes before tribal. Keisha had to come on and kick us off cool because she was like, guys, tribal is starting. Like, come on. And so then after tribal, when Kyle and Eleanor thought that I wasn't on board to vote out Rocky and that I was going to vote for Polly, I know Eleanor was annoyed with me because she thought that I was the reason that the plan didn't work. Because if I said that I was voting Rocky to her, then Rocky would be gone. But she didn't tell me that that was the plan. I had not heard the plan before, and so that kind of pissed me off. It's like, I don't think it's good strategy to completely just avoid the question when I ask you repeatedly, like, who are you voting for? Like, tell me who you're voting for. And so then if you truly did want Cassie to stay, then that's on you because you could have told me. But if she did want Cassie gone and she was lying to me about that, then I can sort of see how she'd go about that. I think I need to know what her true intentions were that round to know if she played it well or not. Because if she did want Cassie to stay, then I think she played it horribly, in my opinion. But yeah.
It's me next, right? Yes. Yeah, actually, Leslie, Eleanor did that exact same thing to me a couple times. She did it the round Hyrie went. The round Cassie went, she was like trying to convince me to vote for you, Danny. Actually, she briefly mentioned Hyrie, but then like moved on to you. And then the round that Hyrie went, she spent the hour before tribal. I was like, "What are we doing here?" And she kind of got pissy with me, and I was like, "I don't know why you're like mad at me because we have voted together for the last 2-3 rounds. I've told you what I'm doing. Like, where are we voting this round?" And she did the same thing. You know where I'm voting. You know who I'm voting for. And I was like, "No, I don't, because you haven't told me." And she's like, "No, it's who I wanted to vote for last round." So I was like, "Danny, you want to vote for Danny?" And then 2 minutes before tribal, she just went, "It's Hyrie. I'm voting for Hyrie." And then it was sort of like I don't know, a bit of a passive aggressiveness that I am genuinely curious. Like, is that a strategy or is that just like a personality trait? I don't know. Like in a high stress situation. But one thing, sorry, this might be going off topic, and I don't think it fits under social, but we haven't talked at all about the 2 idol plays. Obviously, Jude and Eleanor both had idol plays, found idols. To me, like finding an idol that's back to physical. We didn't talk about that at all. Like, I feel like that's kind of important. And then the idol plays themselves, that's strategy. So I think if you guys have points not about that, I think go do it, and then maybe we should circle back and talk about this because I think both of those were important to the course of the game.
Pally next, then Cassie, then Hyrie.
Well, that is my fault because I thought that that the votes are gonna be on her. But anyways, it's my strategy. We are not talking about it. Just to mention, yeah, Owen, you got fooled because Eleanor was voting for Hyrie for the whole time at Final 8. So thinking about that, I think Eleanor was a great strategist also, but I actually don't want to separate the 3 of them because the 3 of them were planning the whole game, in my opinion. So it's their agreement together, and they formed their alliance, and they all agreed to be together until final 3. Until I think I don't remember too much, but I think they formed this alliance in pre-merge, if I remember right. If not, then at the final 13 or final 12, something like that. So very, very early in the game. And the 3 of them that made was pretty impressive for me. And then the only thing, yeah. I don't know if I got misinformed about it, but oh well, never mind. It's a false information. Never mind. Yeah, I finished.
Yeah, for what Danny was referencing with my vote out, they actually, and again, I agree with Danny that if Eleanor wanted me to stay, which I zero bitterness about getting voted out, like it's part of the game. But like, if Eleanor wanted me to stay, I feel like I trusted Danny 100%, and I told her that repeatedly, and and so her saying Eleanor telling Danny that she didn't know that Danny was going to vote with us. I said, I literally told Eleanor I told Eleanor in a group chat that I had with Holly, Eleanor, and Kyle that Danny was going to vote with us because I talked to Danny. I went against their wishes, her wishes really, and told Danny the plan because I knew Danny would be on board with it. And again, like if Eleanor wanted me to stay, and it's totally valid if she wanted me to get voted out. It's probably a good strategy on her part. But if she didn't want me to go, I think being too afraid to trust your allies is not a good strategy. Like letting fear back you away. Because if we had pulled it off, it would have been really cool. But again, I'm really not stressed about it. Like if she may very well have wanted me gone that round and was just trying to cover her tracks. And that in that case, that's impressive. Like very well done. And so yeah, like to me, I do feel like strategically there were a lot of moments where Eleanor knew the strategic thing to do, but she would balk. She'd get really, really nervous. And I don't know, I think she wanted to be more strategic, but I think that ultimately she got nervous a lot about making the moves that she may have needed to make in order to be as strategic as she was trying to be. And I think sticking with Kyle and Jude was the smartest strategy for her because I think that together, I agree with Polly, together they had a fantastic strategy because it did get them to final three. So it'll be interesting to hear, like, I guess this might be for me. This is one thing I'm going to need strategically to hear from Eleanor is, you know, were you genuinely, did you genuinely want some of these things that you said you were like, were you genuinely trying to get the votes away from Z and Polly? Things like that. Like, what was your real strategy there? And, um, and if so, how many times did you back off because you got nervous? Because no guts, no glory. Like I'm very much a believer in that. You gotta, if a big move is presented to you and you're too afraid to take it, that's a little bit of a notch against you in my book because again, you gotta have guts to get to the end. So we'll see. We'll see. Like I'm very, very interested to hear. Like I'm not criticizing at all because I don't know, but I do want to hear more about that from her.
So we'll go Hyrie, Davey, and then finish off with Owen.
Just to circle back on a few other things, and I think it will tie in with like the social aspect of it when we discuss later. One of the things that Eleanor brought up to me was that she had mentioned this sucks when not playing Survivor, which I kind of agree. Because at many points in the game, I don't think a lot of us were actually playing Survivor where it's just like basically I don't want to write this person's name down. I cannot do this person's name down for so and so reason, which is kind of annoying. I am a recipient of that because I've told people many times that I wasn't going to write Danny's name down ever. But it came to a point where it just made playing the game difficult, which was what Eleanor shared with me. And then when we had that discussion on the call that we did, I laid it out for her. Like, if you want to separate your game from the people that you have been working with since swap, this is the time to do it. But ultimately she didn't. And I it will be interesting to hear how she recovered from that, because I know that she had a falling out with Jude. Or this could all just be like fake information that I get from Kyle and I got played like hardcore. So that is something that another thing that I don't want to hear from them. And then also with the fact that what I'm hearing from Pali now, that Eleanor orchestrated this the entire day, it's not really a strategy to me to be wasting somebody's time, because if you know you're sending somebody to the jury, just be straight up upfront with them, and you know that the person doesn't have an idol. And you also mentioned that if you are writing my name down, you would tell me before tribal, and she didn't do that. She couldn't even do one thing for me as I got sent to the jury. Or she said 2 minutes before tribal. What the fuck happened? And then I hear from Owen 1 minute before she said, I'm writing Hyrie. So why can you tell Owen that you are writing Mininum and not me? So that kind of like take off points from Eleanor, from my perspective.
I I think like the past couple of speeches or turns have made me think about like finesse. Like how did the finalists finesse their way to the end and also use finesse in the moves that they did? Because I also have like an Eleanor story where she was like how are you voting in the final 12? And I was like, this way. And then she like didn't talk to me after. But I think in the way that they kind of like they leveraged their information, like all of them leveraged their information in interesting ways. And I am very curious about what they think their perception of it is. And if if their strategy was to like strong arm and like not really care how many people they burned to get to the end because they played like a strong like holistic game, or if it was like actually you know what, I want to do a little bit more finesse and I want to like take things step by step to get to where I am, even though I am in a trio. I'm just curious. Sorry, I'm echoing.
Sorry, real quick. I would actually love to hear Kyle tell me that he lied about everything. I actually think that would like kind of help me change my mind towards him, like because I feel like that's a perfectly valid way to play a game. And if I found out that like so much of my perception about Eleanor and other people in the game came from like things that Kyle manufactured, I would like actually I would be impressed by that. And so like I'm just very like I think of all the three, like I think what Eleanor did in the game is very obvious. I think we can all see it. I think what Jude did in the game is like second most obvious. What Kyle did in the game is like the biggest mystery to me. And so like, yeah, I think like strategically, like if Kyle goes to FTC and is like, yeah, my strategy was to completely fuck all your perceptions and cause so much chaos that you didn't see me doing all that, then like I would actually respect that personally. I think that's a valid way to go to the end. But I need him to like stand there and own it and not apologize for it. Like, because if you're gonna do that, do it with your whole chest, right?
Danny, finish us off.
I had something I wanted to say and then I forgot, but I did have one other thing. I want to know what they were doing behind the scenes. Oh, actually, I remember. I want to know what they were doing behind the scenes to sort of like one up their allies. Because if they all went into the, if they're planning to go to like the final tribal council, where you know they believe that they just had like a 1 in 3 shot of winning, rather than making these moves to try and like make sure that they have the best chance of winning, I don't know how much I respect that. So I want to hear if they were making like subtle moves behind the other two's backs, like try and win them over some points with the jury or like make some subtle moves or whatever. And also, I want to know, I don't know if anybody can like here can answer this, but if not, then I might ask them. I want to know if their like falling outs were real or not, because I heard a lot throughout the game that Eleanor and Jude were pissed at each other like quite often. I don't know how real that was, or if it was just a not real. Polly, was it not real? Is that what you're saying? Okay, because I didn't know that if it was like a smoke screen to like try and like cover up their alliance. And if it isn't, that's a good gameplay. But if it isn't, then I don't know, that's just interesting to me. So that's all I have to say.
Pally, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, now yeah.
Yep.
You can hear me? Okay,
Yep, good.
great. Okay, then I muted my headphone. Just would like to add one sentence to it. Kyle and Eleanor, for me, was attacking each other every single time. So what Danny says is that Eleanor and Jude had fight also. That I think that they were just making it up. So I think it was just their strategy to make their threat level and their three-person alliance to look like it's not existing at all. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say only.
Owen, last word.
Yes, this goes back to the idol. I forget. I think Kyle or Polly, did you say? Someone told me that they were helping each other do the idol hunt. So Jude and Eleanor apparently were also passing the idol back and forth for a few rounds of merge. So like, yeah, I don't think the fighting could actually be real if they were actually like working on finding that idol together. So I'd be interested in learning more about that too, because that's another way that like Jude and Eleanor's game are just so tied together. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know. Yeah.
Thanks for answering that for me.
Sorry.
Thank you for answering that for me.
Okay then, so this is the last chance. If anybody has anything else they would like to say on this topic, now is the last chance before we move on to the social aspect. Nope. Okay. So we're going to move on to the social aspect. So whoever wants to start us off, go right ahead.
I would love to start this one off. Oh, Polly, we had the same thought.
Go on,
okay, I'll
Cassie.
be
I
quick.
spoke a lot already.
I have too. I talk a lot every day. Anyway, but no, like I really wanted to start this off because I think that socially all three of them did so well overall, because I feel like they were able to keep themselves separate enough in people's heads that they could kind of insinuate themselves into almost every group. I feel like between the three of them, they had an in with everybody in that is now in the jury. And I think that was so genius because, again, like I said, I never tracked that the three of them were together. And I did hear the same things, that Eleanor and Jude were pissed at each other and all the time. And I do think there were probably moments where that was true, because I do, I'm sure because when you're working in a tight trio, that's gonna happen. Like I'm sure there were moments where that was true, but I think I think a lot of the time, like if that was a smoke screen, like we're all kind of thinking it was, that's genius, because it then allowed them to get in with everybody, and they had so much information between the three of them. And so I am really impressed by that. I think that I've talked to Z a lot about this, and I think Z is gonna probably have some really good thoughts. You're on call all the time, so it's no surprise I know what his thoughts are on this a little bit. But I really do think that, Kyle, like in my mind, in my mind, the way that they each played was, I think this is gonna sound really weird, guys. I think Kyle played like a golden retriever. He's best friends with everybody and kind of impossible to hate, but sometimes he gets distracted and makes mistakes. And sometimes he digs a hole in your backyard for no reason, and you just want to kill him a little bit. Little bit. I think that Jude played with almost military precision in her mind. Like in a lot of ways, she played like, so in my mind, she's like a German Shepherd. Like she was plan of attack, execute, and then she disengaged. I feel like she didn't quite engage emotionally as much as the other two may have. I think Eleanor played like a pit bull. I think that she could be the sweetest person, and you wanted to, like, she's the person you want protecting your family, but also sometimes she would turn around and bite your head off for no apparent reason and without much warning. And so I do think, like, for me, in my mind, all three are potentially fantastic strategies if they have the self-awareness to own their strategies, because that's what I want. I don't care how cutthroat each of them played, because I think they all played cutthroat. You have to get to the final three in a group like this, in a group of people who want, thanks, Davey, um, in a group of people who want this as bad as we do. You have to play a little bit cutthroat to make it to where they did. I think if they can own the ways that they played, I think that we are going to have a really freaking amazing final tribal council. Because I think most of us are not super bitter. I think most of us are just we want to understand. We want to understand what they're thinking, what their thought processes were, and if they understand the way that their game affected other people in the game. And if we can get that, whoever can do that the best, I think, is going to win this. But socially, I think they all had their strengths and their weaknesses. And I honestly don't know whose social strategy I like the best at this moment, because they are all so different.
So just so everyone knows, the order will go Z, Pally, Davey, Owen, Hyrie. I will put it in the chat.
So for me, this is gonna sound like a really big, bitter word, and it's not at all. But the best way I can describe my feelings on each of their social games is there's kind of a hypocrisy to each of them. So starting with Kyle and I, on a personal level, were obviously very close. We worked together a bit. You know, everybody thought we were some terrible, unbreakable duo. Honestly, the only person in the game I gave my word to was Parley, and I would have stuck to that all the way. Anybody else, as much as I cared for them, was fair game, even if nobody else believed that. But Kyle, on a pure like there's like social and there's game social, if that makes sense. And both of them are game, but I think we all know the difference as well. On the one level, very kind, got to know me, shared part of his soul, and was lovely. But the thing that retrospectively slightly irritates me is he had this real chip on his shoulder that he thought that if he worked with me, he would automatically be cut before Parley and Cassie. Now, with Parley, fair enough, that was true. Not that I told him that. With Cassie and I had discussed it so many times. We formed a really good friendship, but game's game. And he spent so long trying to go on about how insecure he felt that if he was working with us as a four, he'd be the bottom rung. And it was constant. And he'd also go on about how other people were being messy and, you know, stressing him out. And like in retrospect, knowing what I know now, he's in a group that I think he was probably trying to get me involved with, where I would have been on the bottom. And he was also kind of hella messy in places. And so I'm like, everything you were like getting irritable with me for, you were doing. So that's him. With Jude, I got the least social game and game social from. Just didn't seem particularly interested in me. I don't know whether that was personal, whether it was just time, whether it was her bristling a bit because of the Davy vote. I don't know. But the biggest thing for me, on the first time I got votes, she messaged me afterwards and she said, I'm really sorry. It's just that I don't like lying to people in games. So if I know I'm voting for them, I tend to go quiet. And I went, you know what? That's fair enough because I often do the same thing. I don't like lying to people's faces. So yeah, I said that's fine, not a problem. But the next vote, when I actually went, she messaged me about 4 hours before and said, "Look, I really want to sort something out. I really want to work here. Let's have a chat. Let's see if we can make something happen." And because she said that with her values, I was like, "Okay, so this is real." I responded to it. She then ghosted me for the entire rest of the vote, and I'm like, "Well, you've told me how you operate." And then you've gone back on how you operate, and that's doubly irritating because I've told you I'd rather you operated the way you did in the first place. So that one irked me a bit. And then with Eleanor, I didn't have as many issues with Eleanor as other people did. But from what I'm hearing, again, it's kind of hypocritical because there were a couple of times where her and I got crossed wires because, you may have noticed I can be a bit sarcastic, and she couldn't read whether my sarcasm was me being truthful or what. And so she just said, "Look, I really appreciate uh being direct and just honest and coming straight at me with what you mean and how you mean it." And I said, "Cool, yeah, that's fine." Um, but then it seems like she's been really indirect and really vague and going around the houses with a lot of you. And so I'm like, all these people seemed to want to impose their values on other people, but not follow them themselves. And so to me, I'd like to see which of them shows the self-awareness to say, yeah, actually, yeah, at points I was a bit of a hypocrite, and who potentially gets defensive and tries to deny that those sorts of things were happening. So yeah, that's my assessment on the three of them, and I'm interested in whether anybody else majorly disagrees.
I've just put the order in the chat. Pally, Davey, Hyrie, Danny, Fabi. So Pally.
Yeah. So from my perspective, I think the three of them were working together on the social law. So as I was noticing, Jude was much more talking to Rocky, Owen, Irie, and to those people who were on the one side. And Eleanor was more like talking to me, Cassie, Z, to those people. So the two people who were actually in fight between each other at the final 12, 11, 10, and so on. And Kyle, I haven't heard a single person who didn't say that they were not talking to Kyle. So from my perspective, Kyle was talking to everyone and he was hiding his social skills done very well. But at the same time, we were voting for him as the social person of the game, right? Then the question is, why didn't we vote him out if he is a social person? Anyways, I'm speaking too much about this. So yeah, at social, I think Kyle was the best at it. Eleanor was talking to me a lot also, but she also lied to me a lot. But also Kyle lied to me a lot. In the game, for example, like I was throwing Eleanor's name as making some kind of plans against her. in the name of that Rocky was the one who spit it out to everybody at final 8, if I remember right. And which wasn't true because I didn't hear it back from people, and actually people wanted to work with me. So their social skills individually was good, but in my opinion, Kyle had the best one. Yep, that's it.
I um I feel like I have whoa. I feel like I have funny anecdotes of each person. I feel like with Kyle, we had this like little insider. We would always message each other at the top of the day, being like, "Why do you love me?" And then it would just be like, "Oh my God, how's the vibes? What's going on?" Like it was an intentional check-in, but it was also like an insider. I really appreciated it because he did vote for me during the round that Mona went. And I was like, I don't really know how to trust you because you said one thing, but then you want to do something else. And, I never closed myself off to anybody in any rounds. So I was like, this is interesting. Maybe you can mend this relationship. And I think that it's been talked about a lot. Like Kyle is really good at mending relationships and being like low key with that. And I guess speaking with the Mona vote, like, um, there was a lot of heat during that vote, specifically before the votes were cast, before people went to go vote. Mona had accused Jude of being kind of impersonal and like too inquisitive. But I thought differently. I thought Jude was such an intentional listener and someone who like tried to like get to know people in their own way. And I feel like the way that we manage our anxieties when like talking to new people is something that should be thought about. But it doesn't have to be like the deciding factor when it comes to votes. And I I felt I felt okay with all three of them. I think Eleanor and I had like a conversation where she's like, I'm kind of awkward and I don't really like get some social cues sometimes. So I think maybe her sporadicness and her chaos or her like panic maybe was just her way of trying to control or strong arm like things that she wanted to happen. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like objectively I can look at all three of them and the way that they communicated and the way that they socialized with me as like a special moment in this game. And I think that um I don't really have my idea of who I would like put at the top for social yet. Uh I think it has to like be holistic.
Okay. First, I just want to say, Cassie, that was amazing with what you just said with the three of them. It kind of gave me a little bit more insight on how to look at their games a little bit. And honestly, that was the reason why you had to go. With Z, I agree with you about Kyle having a chip on his shoulder at many points in the game, where like it sort of became questionable. Like, what is it that you want to do? Because there were times where yes, he was in a solid group, but then also he's questioning that solid group. Like, is he playing for fifth? Am I? He keeps questioning and checking back in with me. Like, am I playing for fifth? With like Rocky, Jude, Kyle, me, and Owen. And then I said, like, you're not playing for fifth because you're damn tight with Jude. And I'm pretty sure you know that. Like, let's not beat around the bush with that connection. Um, and then with like the different things that the different social games that they played, I feel like for me personally, I feel like Kyle did it the best. Like he like on at the Cassie tribal, he got on call with me for 3 hours to solidify game stuff. 3 hours. Uh, of course, there was like social talks as well besides game. And he was telling me like wanting to go to the final three with me, him, and Eleanor. And he said that me or him would have a stronger chance of winning against Eleanor. So that's one thing that I may want to get some insights on from him. Like why were you so confident that you can beat Eleanor at that point with those group of people? And then with like Jude and Eleanor, I believe like I kind of fell on the wrong end of that because like using the season's theme, Worlds Collide, I feel like Kyle really have himself colliding with the worlds. Jude and Eleanor, not so much. They were sticking to more of the people in the same time zones and not accommodating to people that were like on Bom Bom or Pakina. Because like I hear from Kyle that like Eleanor's been having conversations with this person, this person, this person throughout the entire day. But where was those conversations from the people that were not in a friendlier time zone with her time zone? So that it kind of feels like a little bit unfair that there was not enough investment socially with me between the two. And it sort of feel like they were playing worlds imploding instead of colliding. And then with I kind of forgot like other things that I want to point it out. Maybe it will come back, but that's where I'm gonna stop for now.
Okay, I believe it's my turn. I just want to say I have to go after this, so I'm really sorry. But for my last thing, I want to say, I think Hyrie, you hit like the what's the saying? Hit the nail on the head. Because Kyle was of the three, Kyle was really like the only person I felt like I could like talk with, and we all know I wasn't around that often, so it might have just been a me problem. But Kyle was sort of like the only person, sort of after you left, Hyrie. Kyle was like the only person that I was actually having like outside of the game talks with. We would laugh together and joke together. We would go on call for hours. And so I think that's a big positive to a social game. And also what I was saying before about like back in the strategy section when I thought I was talking about social, I think Kyle's strategic game sort of did lead to the way that Kyle was playing the game strategically led to a good social game because nobody was really annoyed with Kyle. People were annoyed with Eleanor. June's a bit of a question mark for me. I don't know about her, but I know that everybody felt good with Kyle. And so I think that's a big positive for him socially, as well as just being able to like laugh and joke together about things unrelated to the game. So that's my 2 cents. Anyway, I need to go now. So love you. Oh, I'm sorry, Polly. No, but okay. No, I did connect with you, just that like time zones kind of fucked us over. Anyway. Love you all. Bye.
Okay, Fabi, wrap us
Yeah,
up.
I will also go after this because work stuff, blah blah blah. Yeah, I think there's, as C said, there's like two parts. There was like the personal social game where you just talk to people about random stuff, and I feel like that for me is also important because, especially someone who is from another time zone, and I usually play these with only Americans. Mostly, for me, I don't play these games also because of the experience, but also to meet new people. So that's why also my part of my question will be how well they got to know me and what they know about me, because I feel like it's also important that you get to know the people you play with, because this is a social experiment, that like all these games are like social experiments. And then another point is I also think like with Kyle, I felt like he was never sleeping, so I feel like he always was talking to everyone. Like everyone I always messaged him was like, when are you sleeping? Like you're awake at every time. And he was like Kai was like sort of my like safe space to talk about anything. Like he made me feel like I could go to Kyle and talk about if I had to vent about people, I was going to Kyle and said how I'm feeling. And that's also like an important part. I mean, Kyle never got a vote this entire merge until like the last tribal. So, and I think he won like most like the person you would trust with your life together with Jude, and he still never got a vote. Until then, out of the three, he was the only one who didn't need an idol to get where he is because he never got any votes. Jude and Eleanor, if it wasn't for their correct idol play, which they did, I didn't. Uh, uh, without that idol play, they would have been gone sooner. So I feel like that proves like his social game or and strategic game, because I feel like that goes together, was that strong that he didn't need anything to get to the end.
Okay, if anybody else has anything they would like to add to social before we wrap things up here, now is the final chance. No? Okay then, so this seems like the round table has come to a natural conclusion. So I just have one last question to leave you with as you leave today. This is just something to think about for Final Tribal Council, and it is, what does each finalist have to do in order for you to strongly consider voting for them? So that is just something for you to leave today to think about going into the Final Tribal Council. With that in mind, I just want to quickly go over the times and stuff. So obviously, Final Tribal Council will be on Saturday. The time has been pinned into the jury chat because obviously, as we know, there is different times. For some, it might be 5 p.m. Eastern. For some, it might be 11 p.m. their time. For some, it might be early. Hi, Hyrie. For others, we don't know. But how Final Tribal Council will work is each of the finalists will have their opening statement. So each of the final three will give their final statement or opening statement, sorry. And then it will be your turn. Each of you will have, I believe we've said 10 minutes for your questionings. Please decide on an order. There is no one way to structure this. It is completely up to you guys. So however you want to structure the order, just make sure once it is confirmed to please tag production so we know and make a note for it. And I hope everyone's listening to this and not laughing at everything that's going on in the chat. But just a reminder, ultimately, this is your decision. You are deciding who will win this game. All we have to say is trust your gut and your voice. Your vote is your vote. And let's hope you make the right decision for yourself. But that is the jury round.